Okay, just sit tight, bud. I'm gonna safety lock those, and then you and I are gonna talk for a second. You know why we're here?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Okay, well, we did find the body.
Peter and Elvira Almen were last seen on CCTV walking home before they mysteriously disappeared. A day later, their bodies were found brutally beaten and hidden inside a U-Haul truck. With no clear clues, detectives had to piece together what had happened and track down the killer. A key witness later informed the police that Maxime had admitted to killing his parents. The witness recalled asking him what had happened, to which Maxime had responded that he had got two bodies, referring to his parents. Detectives soon identified 37-year-old Maxim Parnov, Peter and Elvira's son, as the prime suspect. He had allegedly told someone that he planned to head toward Milwaukee to make it seem like he was fleeing north, only to turn around and go south. Meanwhile, police received a call from a homeowner who reported that Maxim was standing behind his house. Peter, 64, and Elvira, 56, had been looking forward to retirement. But on November 30th, 2021, something unexpected had occurred. That morning, Peter had failed to show up for work. Since he was always punctual, his co-workers had quickly become worried. When they had tried calling Elvira and she also hadn't answered, their concerns had grown, leading them to contact the police. When officers arrived at the family's home for a welfare check, they had knocked on the door but received no response. Forced to break in, they had been met with an eerie scene. The house was empty. There had been no visible signs of a struggle, and everything had appeared to be in order, except for a strange white powdery substance scattered throughout the rooms. This discovery had escalated the case from a missing persons report to a homicide investigation. Hoping for more information, detectives had questioned neighbors. One of them had provided security footage revealing that 3 unidentified men had been seen moving a large wooden box and a freezer from the house into a U-Haul truck between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. This had raised major questions about the identity of these men and the contents they had been transporting. Finding that U-Haul truck had then become the investigators' top priority. Officers had begun searching local U-Haul facilities and had used cadaver dogs to check various trucks. On December 1st, one of the dogs had alerted them to a parked U-Haul, prompting them to obtain a search warrant. When officers had finally opened the truck, they had made a gruesome discovery. Peter's body had been found inside the wooden box, while Elvira's had been placed inside the freezer. Both had been brutally beaten to death. With their bodies recovered, the only missing person had been their son, Maxime. As detectives continued gathering evidence, a witness had come forward revealing that Maxime had spoken about his parents' deaths after an argument, though he had not provided many details. This had indicated that a fight had likely taken place before their disappearance. Soon after, another key piece of information had emerged. A witness had informed police that Maxime had been attempting to flee by heading toward Milwaukee, stopping at gas stations to buy prepaid debit cards, and later planning to turn around and go south. He had also been using his deceased father's credit card and checkbook to finance his escape. With this new information, detectives had intensified their search, determined to capture Maxim before he could disappear. Police across Elgin and nearby states were alerted as the manhunt for Maxim, who was fleeing with his parents' money, intensified. On December 2nd at 5:45 a.m., officers tracked his phone using AT&T's cell tower data. Initially, the search covered 223 meters, but a call from Maxime's friend, Andy Helzer, pinpointed him behind a specific house. Officers moved in cautiously, aware he might flee or be armed. Maxime was arrested without resistance but refused to talk. The motive behind his parents' murders remained unclear. New leads soon emerged. A neighbor provided an audio recording from November 29th, the day before Peter and Elvira disappeared. Maxime was heard boasting about luxury watches and asking for help moving something heavy, without revealing what it was. Neighbors suspected Maxime of illegal activities, as he frequently sought help for odd jobs in exchange for money. As detectives dug deeper, even more disturbing details about his past began to surface. As the investigation continued, detectives spoke with more people who knew Maxime. Witnesses described him as someone always looking for quick money, often through questionable means. He was known for getting aggressive when things didn't go his way, which might explain his heated argument with his parents before they vanished. Despite the growing evidence, Maxim refused to speak during interrogations. He gave no explanation for his parents' deaths or how their bodies ended up in the U-Haul truck. However, surveillance footage, witness statements, and financial records all pointed to him. Investigators discovered that he had used his father's credit cards to withdraw money and buy prepaid debit cards while trying to escape. With no signs of forced entry at the family home, detectives suspected that Maxim had attacked his parents after their argument. The white powder found throughout the house was later identified as baking soda, possibly used to mask the crime scene's odor. After his arrest, Maxim was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, concealment of a homicide, and theft. Prosecutors built their case using the timeline of events, security footage, and Maxim's suspicious actions after the murders. Despite his defense team arguing that there was no direct evidence, the circumstantial proof and Maxim's behavior painted a clear picture of his guilt. He was convicted on all charges and sentenced to life in prison without parole. The murders shocked the quiet neighborhood, leaving many struggling to understand how a son could commit such a brutal act. The case became even more disturbing due to Maxim's calculated actions, disposing of the bodies and attempting to flee with his parents' money. Though the investigation provided answers, his true motive remained unclear. Throughout the case, investigators were unable to determine how Maxim had obtained the expensive watches he was trying to sell. Even the buyers were suspicious, which led to Maxim growing increasingly aggressive. His erratic behavior worsened when he suddenly started talking about his mother, Elvira. He blamed her for his stepfather's death, claiming she had caused it. He also accused her of purposely dropping him as a baby and poisoning his dog. Maxim spoke without emotion, making disturbing claims about how his mother had mistreated him. He expressed frustration over his financial struggles, his mental health issues, and his parents refusing to help him. He believed they were working against him, which fueled his resentment. It wasn't until detectives interviewed Rebecca, one of Elvira's friends, that they realized Maxim's mental state was even more unstable than they had initially thought. Detectives spoke to a woman who said she had first met Maxim the previous year. She mentioned that he occasionally visited his parents and usually brought his 2 pit bulls. According to her, his mother often told him to take responsibility for his life, but he kept saying he was between jobs. She also recalled that he had been on anxiety medication and had trouble sleeping, which often frustrated his mother. The investigation revealed that Maxim deeply resented his mother, blaming her for his biological father's death. His relationship with his stepfather was also strained. When he was struggling financially, he felt abandoned by his parents. A major lead came when one of Maxim's friends contacted the police after a disturbing conversation. The friend reported that Maxim had told him his parents were no longer alive and later admitted to killing them, though he avoided saying the word directly. The friend also mentioned that Maxim had talked about a fire extinguisher, which investigators later suspected was used as the murder weapon. After the killings, Maxim had hired landscapers to unknowingly move his parents' bodies in a U-Haul truck. He had also approached several people for help, including a former gang member, whom he reportedly told that he had killed his parents and needed assistance. Police concluded that an argument, likely about money, had triggered Maxim's violent outburst. In a fit of rage, he had attacked his parents with a fire extinguisher, causing their deaths. Later, in court, Maxim pleaded guilty to his stepfather's murder as part of a plea deal. In exchange, the charge for his mother's murder was dropped, and he was sentenced to 50 years in prison. That's all for the video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel.